Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox, and I am really excited today because it's the first day of the new release from Papertrey Ink and Ink to Paper collection, and I've chosen one of their stamp and die sets, and it's called Dear Friend. You will see many more of the things from their release in the coming days, but for now I'm starting out with Dear Friend, and it has that sweeping branch, some leaves, wonderful sentiments, and the matching die set. So I have, to get started, I have a piece of bristle paper. I have my trusty ruler. I can't live without this one. I just love how easy it is to mark things off. And what I'm doing is I'm marking a 1/2 inch in all the way around because I want a 1/2 inch border. We're kind of going to create a self border for this card design. And then what I'm going to do to mask this off is I'm going to use some removable tape. Now there are several on the market, like you can use purple tape, but in this one I'm going to use Post-it tape. I just happen to have it handy, and I'm just stretching it across, attaching it to this board. And the reason why I put it on the board is so that I can move it around easily. And I'm just making sure that I line it up with each of those tick marks that I made, so that I'm marking off that 1/2 inch. And once that's all on there, I'm going to press it down to make sure I've got a nice border on there. And I know that this Post-it tape isn't going to tear my paper when I go to pull it up, which is fabulous. And I now have the stamp, the branch stamp, mounted on an acrylic block, and I'm stamping it with New Leaf ink. Now all the inks I'm going to be using are Papertrey ink cubes. This one is New Leaf. I'm going to stamp it a couple of times with New Leaf, and then I'm going to go on to Aqua Mist. The three greens are basically the three greens I'm using. I know Aqua Mist is a little blue, which I really like to add for foliage, just a touch of blue. But I have New Leaf, Aqua Mist, and then Spring Moss, and that I'm going to be stamping these leaves with. So I'm going to start out with the big leaf, and I'm going to just stamp along here. I'm going to spritz it with my sprayer, and I'm going to spritz it about an arm's length away. You've heard me say that before, because I don't want to get too much water onto the stamp. I want just a very light mist there, and I'm just going to stamp this a few times. The biggest decision is just where to stamp it, because you're creating kind of a meadowy, sweeping kind of look to this card, which I like. It's very tranquil. I'm going on to the aqua, and I'm just kind of filling this in because we're just creating this really nice display. Now I'm going to go on to the little leaves, and I am going to introduce in the spring moss also. You'll see where I will use that as well. The spring moss is really nice because it gives it a lighter green to it. And I'm just going to fill in where I think it needs it. And then now I'm going to go on to creating kind of the blossoms. And the blossoms I'm going to make just out of that same large leaf, but I'm just going to color it pink. So I'm using Sweet Blush, and then at the bottom part of the leaf I'm using Raspberry Fizz. Now here it's really important to stamp and then spritz, because you want that Raspberry Fizz and the Sweet Blush to blend. I also sometimes blend it with my finger and then spritz it. I just want to make sure that I get a good blending. And then I'm just deciding where and how much I want to stamp in blossoms. So you can really create this however you think it should go. But in this one, I'm not going to overly saturate it with the pink blossoms, but I'm going to add just enough to create a really nice display. See how I kind of blend that out with my finger. My finger gets inky, but it does blend it out nicely, and then the spritz with water gives it a little bit more. And that's the main reason for using Bristol paper. One, I like the white background. Two, it accepts ink very well. And three, the inks blend really nicely. So Bristol paper is a really good choice for this. I like to use the Corlinor Bristol paper. It seems to do the best job. And all the supplies I will link, put a link down below where you can click to that and it'll take you right to the supply list along with some more information. I'm just adding in a few more leaves too. Just want to fill this in until it looks like that I have a good display. And as always, you know me, I can never stop tinkering. So I had to add a few more. But now I'm going to also add in, besides adding in some leaves here and there, I'm going to just take that one little stamp. I think it's meant to be a tiny little branch, but I'm going to use it for the top of my flowers, of it as if it's the stamen of the flowers. And I'm using bright buttercup for this. And I'm not going to stamp it in every one of them, but just enough to give it just a little touch of yellow. And then with that done, I'm going to still use these same colors, and I've left the tape still on there. I am taking Aqua Mist and with a blending brush, and you can use, a blending tool, whatever you have that will put ink, blend ink onto these edges. And I'm just very lightly adding a little bit of the Aqua Mist, and then I'm going to add some spring moss as well as then when down at the bottom I'm going to be using the new leaf. And I'm being very light with this. I don't want to cover the whole surface. I want to leave a lot of white space. But I just want to, when I'm doing this, you'll see that it's creating a really nice border. Now the big reveal that that's done, I get to peel this off and see how it just creates this really great border. I just love, that's kind of magic to me, how that works. And our panel is just nearly done. All we need to do is mat it now and put it on a card base. I'm erasing those little tick marks first. I want to make sure to do that. And we do have to put a sentiment. I'm using Sending Love because I really like that sentiment. It's just really subtle. It can be used for lots of different things. I have it mounted in my stamp positioner, and I'm using, you saw me use a piece of acetate first there, and just to stamp it to make sure I got it in the right position and before I ink it, because I want to make sure it's not crooked, and I'm stamping it just in the right spot. And I believe I was using pine feather for that darker green. Now I have a spring moss card base, and I have a raspberry fizz card panel. So the raspberry fizz, which is that dark pink, is a little bit, just a tiny bit bigger than the front panel. And then I'm going to mount it onto a slightly larger card base, and this is spring moss. And all of these papers are available. They are Papertrey Ink papers, and like I say, I will link them in our supply list. So I'm just taking a few little sequin and I'm just adding those in and gluing them down. I just want a few to add just a little bit of sparkle. I'm using that little pickup tool and with a little dab of glue and just adhering those. And that's all there is to it. And I just love how this turned out. It's just a lovely card to send to anyone. It works for any occasion, birthdays or just saying hello. And I really just love how it turned out. I hope you did too. And if you did, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, we would be over the moon if you would subscribe. And then you can always pop over to foiledfox.com/blog. There's a link down below. And you can see Oodles More Inspiration, but you can also see more close-ups to this and our complete supply list. Thanks again for joining us, and you'll see us again soon. Bye.